produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. And I'm your guest host this week, sitting in for John DeSando, Mary Yerina, and with me is my guest,
Beth Malchus Stafa.
And this is It's Movie Time. So Beth, we saw this movie together.
Yes,
Can you tell the audience just what is it about?
It's about a movie theater. It takes place in the 1980s, and it's about the relationships of the people who actually work at the movie theater.
Now you and I, this...
The name of the film.
Oh.
It's okay.
This is so much to remember. You will edit that out. This week we're talking about the movie Empire of Light.
Yes, and it took place in England, on a beach town in England, and in the 1980s, which, you know, our time in high school.
It was our time in high school.
And it's about a rundown movie theater that was probably at its prime in the Art Deco times, and mainly it's about the people who worked at this movie theater and their lives.
And particularly one character is truly the focus of this, and that's Hillary, who's played by the always incredible Olivia Colman. What did you think of her character in this film?
You know, she was kind of a mystery. How's that? It starts out as a mystery about who this woman really is, and I've got a break. A mystery of who this woman really is, and you later find out that she has a mental illness, and how the people around her, to me, was intriguing. How the people around her sort of took her for what she was, or who she was, with her mental illness.
Yeah, it was really interesting, I thought, to see not only how this movie theater, the Empire of Light Theater, brought these disparate people together, but also how in this time, which was 40 years ago, not to date ourselves, but that how mental illness was treated. We have somewhat of an image in our minds that things were not to the standard that they are today, especially with mental health coming to the fore so much during the recent pandemic times. But also we're reminded through one of the characters in particular, cast against type, Colin Firth plays the manager of this theater, and he, in the end, does not treat her very well. And it was a reminder of how people with mental illness, I think, could be taken advantage of and still probably are today. And I also think it reflected on the cycle that people who have mental illness go through, which we don't often see portrayed. We forget that the drugs that they take, in this case she's being prescribed lithium, has side effects that manage her disease, which they refer to as schizophrenia in the film, but it sounded more like it was portrayed more like it was bipolar, I think. So Dr. Mary is diagnosing the character here. But I just thought it was a real interesting take on how far we've come, and that there are good people out there who surround Hillary with love and caring, but then it was a reminder of how much we still don't know, how far we still have to go, and that there are still bad actors out there who will take advantage of people with mental illness.
Yeah, and I think that in one of the scenes, the discussion about, I guess her rant. There's two scenes. There's at the beach, and she's angry, and then in her apartment she's angry at men, and the men that she means sounds like these are men that have taken advantage of her, because often, you know, what I'm told, again, I'm not a doctor, that oftentimes mental illness can start when you're in young adult. And so her talking about a professor, teachers, and her father, and her, what it sounds like, workplaces, all these men seem to have taken advantage, and in the case at her current workplace, advantage of her sexually.
Absolutely. And the other counterpart to her in this kind of universe of light at the theater is a young man named Stephen, who we're introduced to, who I thought was a revelation as an actor. It's a young
Oh
man
my
named
gosh.
Michael Ward. He's a Jamaican British young actor. We haven't seen too much of him in the United States yet, but you know, for him to come in and play this counterpoint and develop such a lovely relationship as Stephen with Hillary, played by Olivia Colman, he's just amazing and is a great partner, I thought, on screen with
Yes.
Olivia.
Yes, I mean, I just thought, I was just awed by this young man and his ability, and I'm just like, more to come on him, and I'm anxious to see movies that he does in the future, because he really does pull off the role at, first of all, dealing with being an interracial couple at the time, and also being in a relationship with an older woman. So Hillary is about maybe 40, and he's in his early 20s, and Stephen is black, and Hillary is white, and so they're having to skip through a lot of social constructs at that time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, this is a time in 1980 UK that Thatcher has just been elected prime minister. There's huge social upheaval with regards to the Conservatives and Labor.
Right,
There
and
was
there's strikes
there's a
going
lot
on.
of strikes going on, and it was also the rise of the punks,
Mhm.
you know, who were, and we see that portrayed in this film, where, you know, basically young men, unemployed, nothing better to do than be mean and violent towards other people. And there's a pivotal scene in the film where that comes to the fore, where Stephen becomes a victim
Right.
of that violence. And I appreciated that we saw the scene, and that it pretty much was no holds bar. I mean, in terms of what he was afflicted with and being attacked in this film. And I just so appreciated that, although I do think the film is so well made and so well crafted, and we should note that it's directed and written by Sam Mendes, who seems like everything he makes
Yes.
and touches is so well crafted. His first film, American Beauty,
Right.
won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best
Yes.
Director. So he's no slouch when it comes to
no.
films. But this is, I think, the first film that he wrote the screenplay for
Yeah, I think so
exclusively.
too, yeah.
And it's autobiographical in the sense that the mental illness component was inspired by his mom. And the other aspects of it, the racism, the setting of what was happening in England at the time, and then the tribute to 1980s films, which is where, I mean, he's our age, so
Yes.
this is where he really developed his love of film as a form of escapism for himself, but it also helped him learn about the greater world. And it's just an incredibly well-crafted film, but it does bring 2 big issues to the fore: mental
Right.
illness and racism. And sometimes I felt like there wasn't enough time in the film to really address both equally well.
Right, and I think also because it was a group of characters. There were several characters that I think I would have liked to know more, like Neil, played by Tom Brooks. His character seems to be, I would consider him a very wise hero in it, because he steps in at different times to point out things. I would like to know more about his background, and it seems like also the Norman, played by Toby Jones.
Always a fabulous character actor that I'm sure many people will recognize.
His character, you really don't get to know. It's like less than 5, I want to say even less than 5 minutes, we get to really understand why he's locked himself into this cinema room to run the camera.
Yeah, he's the projectionist.
Yeah.
Back in the day when you had reels to watch films. And I agree with you, there were some really lovely characters. And I would almost consider the character of Norman that you just referenced as kind of the Solomon of the film, because he really seems to be the giver of wisdom
Mhm.
to the other characters, especially there's a lovely scene with him and Olivia Colman where he's giving some wisdom to her in terms of how to move forward with her life. And one of the most beautiful scenes is when she finally, after working in this theater, wants to see a film, and she's like, I don't care, show me any film. And the film that he chooses to show her actually was one of my favorite films from that era, and that was Being There.
Yes.
So there's lots more to come, especially since we haven't even talked about the character of the theater
No.
or the references to the early 1980s films. So we can do more of that on Back Talk, but until then, Beth, what is your recommendation to our audience for this film?
I would go see it on the big screen because seeing it on your tiny screen at home is not going to do it justice because of the beauty of the film.
And it's just like going to the movies. You